Welcome to Legacy of a Soap Star, where we celebrate the faces and voices that define daytime soaps. Today, we're turning the spotlight on one of the most unforgettable women in soap history, Eileen Fulton, the woman who brought Lisa Grimaldi to life. Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are undertaking a truly massive deep dive into one of the most defining figures in American daytime television history, Eileen Fulton. For half a century, she embodied the iconic, often reviled, but always magnetic character of Lisa Grimaldi on As the World Turns.
It really is an astonishing run. It's not just a long career. It's an unparalleled benchmark of longevity and impact. Eileen Fulton's run as Lisa spanned exactly 50 years. Think about that. Starting in May 1960 and continuing right until the final episode in September 2010.
50 years!
Yeah, to play a single central character almost continuously for 5 decades. I mean, that's an achievement that few, if any, actors across any medium can claim.
That continuity really speaks to the power of the show itself, doesn't it? For those of you who might be newer to soap opera history, As the World Turns, or ATWT, is just foundational. It ran for 54 years, launched on April 2, 1956, and became one of the 3 longest-running serials in U.S. history.
And when we talk about its scale, we aren't just talking about decades on the air. We are talking about 13,763 cumulative hours of narrative.
Wow.
More total content than almost any other show in television history. It really represents generations of daily storytelling.
And the series was the brainchild of the legendary Erna Phillips. She was already a titan, having also created Guiding Light. She wasn't just a writer, she was like a world builder. And ATWT introduced a major technical innovation to the genre, didn't it?
Absolutely. It debuted on the same day as The Edge at Night, and they were the first American serials to move beyond that traditional 15-minute format. They extended the storytelling to a full 30 minutes.
Which seems standard now, but back then...
Oh, it was huge. That move to 30 minutes was a seismic shift in daytime programming. It allowed for much richer character development, more complex plots, and its early success validated that shift completely.
Right.
As The World Turns didn't just succeed, it dominated. It held the #1 daytime rating spot for 20 continuous years.
20 years?
Running from 1958 all the way through 1978. At its peak, estimates suggest something like 10 million viewers were tuning in every single day. It was a true cultural touchstone.
And those actors who anchored the Hughes family became icons right alongside the show. You think about Helen Wagner playing Nancy Hughes. She famously spoke the show's very first line in 56, "Good morning, dear."
And Don Hastings, of course, is the beloved Dr. Bob Hughes.
Right.
Exactly. So Wagner, Hastings, and Eileen Fulton are focused today. They form that core triumvirate. They became 3 of the longest-serving performers in the entire history of U.S. soap operas.
So our mission in this deep dive is really to trace the incredible trajectory of Eileen Fulton. How did she take what was initially, well, a short-term, almost throwaway role, and through sheer force of will and a really crucial performance choice, transform Lisa Grimaldi into this dynamic, scheming vixen who shaped the genre and eventually kind of cemented her status as the ultimate Oakdale matriarch?
It truly is a remarkable study in an actor taking destiny into her own hands, especially in a medium usually dictated entirely by powerful writers and producers like Erna Phillips.
Let's start at the beginning then. Before Eileen Fulton became the famed super bitch, the woman we know as Eileen Fulton was born Margaret Elizabeth McClarty in Asheville, North Carolina back in 1933. I'm always fascinated by how these early roots shape a performer's drive, you know?
Absolutely. Margaret McClarty came from a highly religious, deeply traditional background. She was descended from a long line of clergymen. Her father was a Methodist minister, and the nature of a minister's life meant the family moved frequently. She grew up in numerous small southern towns, places like Mount Holly, Winston-Salem, Boone, Belmont, Marion.
Lots of moving around.
Yeah, constant upheaval. It likely instilled in her a resilience, maybe an adaptability that would serve her well later in the high-pressure environment of live television.
But the sources suggest that even this devout, sort of peripatetic upbringing couldn't suppress her inner performer. There's a wonderful anecdote that perfectly captures her early ambition.
Yes, that legendary anecdote is just priceless. Apparently, at the tender age of 2 years old, she found her moment and interrupted church services to perform the song Shortening Bread.
Laughing slightly. No way! In the middle of a service.
Right, that brazen confidence, interrupting a formal church service to essentially take the stage. It's a powerful foreshadowing of the boundary-breaking character she would later create, isn't it?
It really shows that innate theatrical spark was there from the very beginning, and it wasn't just a fantasy, it was a focused goal.
Mhm.
And motivated by love for her family, it seems, we know that when she was only in the third grade, she made a really concrete promise to her parents.
She did. She told them very explicitly that when she grew up and achieved her dream of becoming a movie star, she would use her earnings to get them a house of their own.
Wow.
So this wasn't just starry-eyed ambition. It was a clear economic motivation to succeed in a very difficult industry.
So she pursued that goal academically. She enrolled at Greensboro College, choosing a double major in music and dramatics, and she was actively performing on stage there.
Appearing in musical productions like Candide and playing an elf in James Thurber's whimsical play The 13 Clocks, she was getting that stage experience.
But the local stage in North Carolina was never the final destination for her, was it?
No, definitely not. Despite her father helping her secure a job working with a local church choir after graduation, she knew she needed to be in New York City. So she made the move in 1956, committing fully to professional training.
And what exceptional training it was. She studied at the prestigious neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater. She immersed herself in method acting techniques under heavyweights like Sanford Meisner and Lee Strasberg. That kind of rigorous dramatic foundation is really key, I think, to understanding her later ability to manipulate dialogue and characters so effectively.
Yeah, definitely. But, the path to the spotlight wasn't immediate. To keep herself afloat in expensive New York, she worked various jobs. She sold hats at Macy's, a classic New York struggling artist job.
The rite of passage?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And rather fittingly for his future career, she modeled for photographs that appeared on the covers of True Confessions magazine.
There it is. That connects perfectly. She was essentially modeling for covers that promised sensational, dramatic stories, which is precisely what she would end up delivering on television for decades.
It was during this period of professional pursuit that Margaret McLarty adopted the stage name Eileen Fulton. That stage name led her to be cast in the film Girl of the Night in 1960, and then almost immediately after, she landed the role that would define her life.
That role, initially just Lisa Miller, began on As the World Turns on May 18th, 1960. And this is the moment, isn't it? This is where the character of Lisa Grimaldi was truly invented, not really by the writer, but by the actress herself.
Absolutely pivotal moment. Lisa Miller was originally brought onto the show as the sweet fiancée of medical student Bob Hughes. The role was intended to be short-term, a simple obstacle or maybe a stepping stone for Bob's story.
Just a plot device, almost.
Pretty much. The creators, led by Erna Phillips, envisioned her as nothing more than a nice girl. But Eileen Fulton, having trained with Meisner and Strasberg, she looked at the material and saw that it was flat. The character, as written, was just uncompelling.
And she didn't want to play a mere backdrop.
Exactly. So she had her own aha moment of self-direction. She realized, okay, she couldn't change Phillips's words. Erna Phillips was notorious for demanding scripts be followed exactly, but she could change the delivery.
Right.
Fulton later explained that she delivered every single line exactly as written, but she consciously imbued them with this subtle, underlying scheming tone.
That's fascinating. It's a brilliant choice, really.
It allowed her to respect the script while completely altering the character's subtext. So where Erna Phillips wrote sweetness, Fulton performed this, veiled manipulation.
And the legendary Erna Phillips, a writer who dictated every comma, she didn't miss it, did she?
Not at all. She immediately recognized the transformative potential of this edge Fulton was bringing.
And Phillips's reaction is one of the most famous quotes in soap opera history. She declared, "I can write for that little rascal. She can play a bitch."
Shuckles, just like that.
And just like that, the nice girl became the cornerstone of decades of drama. This deliberate choice by Fulton solidified Lisa's future as the show's primary vixen.
And the audience reaction was, instantaneous and explosive. Lisa quickly transitioned from just a conventional character to the first recognized soap vixen, a character type that really defines the genre to this day.
Time magazine even got in on it.
Oh yeah, they were quick to capitalize on the audience outrage. They famously branded her a super bitch and dubbed her the most hated woman on TV.
Which, in the context of 1960s daytime TV, that title, Most Hated Woman on TV, basically meant you were a massive success. You were generating vital drama.
Absolutely. But this hatred wasn't abstract. The source material highlights how deeply invested the viewers were in the domestic realism of the show, especially when Lisa violated those norms.
Right, like that famous early transgression, the one that truly galvanized the audience. It involved the simple act of hiring household help.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Lisa was married to Bob, but she was bored by domesticity, resented being the wife of a young resident doctor. So she hired a maid to clean the house so she could go gallivanting about town, as they put it, neglecting her wifely duties.
And then her doting mother-in-law, Nancy Hughes, the absolute moral compass of the show, praised Lisa for maintaining such a nice, clean home. The audience, predominantly housewives who spent their days doing that exact labor, they were just incandescent with rage over Lisa's deceit.
And this rage was personal. It manifested in actual physical confrontations. The sources tell us that viewers, especially those housewives who saw her deception as a direct insult to their own hard work and values, would routinely stop Eileen Fulton on the street.
Seriously?
Yeah. The anger was so intense that they would sometimes physically accost her. Some sources even say she was slapped on the street.
Slapped. Imagine that intensity. She literally needed a bodyguard because viewers were so furious she had hired a maid and lied about it. It's almost unbelievable, that blurring of lines between fiction and reality for the audience back then.
It's an incredible testament to how real these characters felt. This volatile relationship fueled her fame, absolutely. But what's truly astonishing is the measurable cultural impact Lisa had beyond the world of television.
Right. The connection to popular culture and demographics is just staggering. When Lisa was introduced in 1960, the name Lisa was already rising in popularity, wasn't it? It was ranked as the 6th most popular baby name for girls in the U.S.
Correct. But the extraordinary popularity and visibility of Eileen Fulton's character, this ultimate embodiment of glamour and ambition, is credited with dramatically accelerating that name's rise.
She pushed it even higher.
Significantly higher.
Yeah.
That acceleration pushed the name Lisa to become the most popular girl's name in the United States for an astounding run from 1962 all the way through 1969.
That's incredible. A single character on a half-hour daytime serial fundamentally shifted the naming trends of an entire generation of American babies.
She didn't just define a character type. She influenced demographic data for nearly a decade, just by being the fascinating themer that Eileen Fulton insisted she be.
Okay, so this is where the deep dive into Eileen Fulton's professionalism really kicks off, because she wasn't content just to react to the scripts that followed her scheming tone choice. She actively negotiated and demanded changes.
Her professional self-advocacy was extraordinary, especially considering the power structure of daytime TV back then, where writers, particularly someone like Erna Phillips, held pretty much absolute sway.
And one of the earliest examples of her standing her ground involved a storyline that sounds pretty shocking today. It would have depicted Lisa being physically spanked.
Yeah, and Fulton simply refused the scene outright. Her reasoning wasn't just personal comfort, it was a principled objection. She stated that she believed the scene glorified spousal abuse, and that was something she would not participate in portraying.
That's groundbreaking for the mid-1960s, a time when such portrayals were often, normalized or just played for cheap drama.
Absolutely. It highlighted her role not just as an actress, but as a voice for what the character would and would not represent. She was pushing back against potentially damaging narrative choices.
And then there's the famous high-stakes confrontation related to the show's original live broadcast format. We have to remember, in the early days, ETWT aired live.
Which meant any mistake, any improvisation was immediately broadcast. The pressure must have been immense.
Right. So during a particular murder mystery storyline, Erna Phillips, maybe to maintain genuine suspense among the cast, refused to tell Fulton whether Lisa was the actual killer.
Which, for an actor in a live medium, is terrifying. You need to know your character's emotional truth to play the scene convincingly, right?
Exactly. So Fulton used the inherent risk of live television as a weapon. She delivered a clear, dramatic ultimatum to the production staff. She said, "We're live, don't forget, and if you don't tell me, I'll make up your mind for you on the air."
Wow, that's gutsy.
Unbelievably gutsy. She was threatening to potentially reveal the killer's identity or make some choice that would completely contradict the subsequent scripts. She was forcing the writer's hand under the threat of spontaneous chaos on live TV.
That ability to leverage her importance and the fragility of the live broadcast, that is a stunning display of power management.
But the most famous contractual demand, the one that truly protected her career for decades, was the infamous Granny Clause.
Ah, yes, the Granny Clause. This came about in the late 1960s. Soaps, needing to rapidly advance storylines and introduce new generations, frequently employed Soros soap opera rapid aging syndrome.
Right, where kids suddenly become teenagers overnight.
Exactly. Lisa's son, Tom Hughes, was Soros up to 19 years old.
And Fulton saw this as an immediate threat to Lisa's character.
She did. If her son was 19, that meant Lisa could soon become a grandmother. And she strongly feared that if the character was perceived as a grandmother, it would strip her of her glamour, her vitality, her sexual edge, making her irrelevant to the romantic storylines and therefore disposable.
She was worried they'd write her out.
She was highly aware of industry patterns. She specifically cited the fate of a rival character, Claire Shea, played by Barbara Berger, who had been killed off shortly after becoming a grandmother. Fulton was determined to avoid that narrative trap.
So she insisted on a specific, non-negotiable contract clause stipulating that Lisa could never become a grandmother on screen.
A revolutionary move in the industry at the time. It essentially gave the actor veto power over a fundamental narrative progression, becoming grandparent.
And what's fascinating is the staying power of this clause in the fan consciousness. Even years later, in 1986, the clause may not have even been strictly enforced then. But Lisa's daughter-in-law, Margot, tragically suffered a miscarriage.
And because the fans remember the granny clause so vividly, they immediately blamed Fulton. They genuinely believed she had somehow forced the miscarriage storyline upon the writers just to protect her contractual demand and save her own character from becoming a granny.
That's wild. They thought she engineered a fictional miscarriage.
That was the perception. The reaction was devastatingly intense. Due to that widespread fan misconception and the sheer volume of threatening, vitriolic hate mail she received, often criticizing her perceived vanity. Eileen Fulton once again needed professional security.
Again.
The hostility was so great that she needed a bodyguard to protect her from the very people who tuned in daily to watch her.
That deep personal investment from the audience, translating narrative events into real-world threats, it's just something we rarely see today with taped, edited productions, isn't it?
It really highlights a different era of viewer engagement. This period also saw Lisa's attempt to transition to primetime, remember, in 1965.
Ah, yes. The character was used as the central focus for a primetime spin-off on CBS, creatively titled Our Private World.
Tickles, right. This was CBS's big attempt to capture the success of primetime soaps like Peyton Place, which were hugely popular at the time. The premise saw Lisa leave the seemingly small town of Oakdale for the exciting high society of Chicago.
A bigger pond for Lisa.
Exactly. She quickly married the wealthy John Eldridge, leveraging her glamour and ambition in this new setting. But, well, Lisa being Lisa, domestic bliss was never enough. She promptly began an affair with her new husband's brother, Thomas.
Of course she did, but the show didn't last, did it?
No. Our Private World failed to find a lasting audience and only lasted a few months. Fulton returned to the daytime schedule and ATWT in early 1966.
But here's the genius of soap opera writing. That narrative wasn't totally lost.
Not at all. The impact of that short-lived spin-off was resurrected 26 years later. In 1992, it was revealed that Lisa had, in fact, been pregnant when she left Chicago all those years earlier.
A secret child. Classic soap twist.
The best kind. She had a son named Scott Eldridge. The wealthy Eldridge family had paid Lisa a substantial divorce settlement to ensure she gave up the baby and kept his existence a secret.
And let me guess, he showed up later.
You got it. In true soap fashion, Scott tracked her down as an adult, seeking answers about the mother he never knew. It's a perfect example of how a narrative thread, no matter how brief the original series, can be pulled decades later to inject fresh, high-stakes drama into a veteran character's life.
Let's transition now to the sheer chaos, I guess you could call it, of Lisa Grimaldi's love life. 50 years on screen meant endless romantic entanglements and specifically 8 marriages to 7 different men. That scorecard alone tells you how central she was to the plot's engine.
It's a marital history that really defined the entire scope of the show for her character. Her first husband was, of course, Bob Hughes. That ran from 1960 to 1964. They married hastily because Lisa was pregnant with their son, Tom.
Right, the initial setup.
That marriage ultimately failed due to her restlessness and her affair with Bruce Elliott. This established the essential conflict of Lisa right from the start, that pull between domesticity and her ambition.
Then came the brief, wealthy marriage to John Eldridge, 1965-1967, during the Private World primetime spinoff. But the third marriage introduced a truly dark dimension. Dr. Michael Shea, from 1969 to 1970.
Michael Shea was a chilling character.
Yeah.
Charming, manipulative, ultimately a sociopath. And Lisa married him not for love or wealth, but under intense coercion. This marriage reflected a darker, maybe more contemporary trope emerging in soaps around that time.
Why was she coerced?
She was blackmailed into marrying him to protect her son, Tom. Tom had returned from Vietnam struggling with a drug habit and had been caught stealing prescription drugs from Michael's office. Michael threatened to ruin Tom's life if Lisa didn't go through with the wedding.
Oh, wow. So she sacrificed herself for her son?
Essentially, yes. And because of the coercion and her deep hatred for Michael, Lisa famously refused to consummate the marriage. The drama was intense but relatively short-lived, as Michael was murdered in early 1970.
Another classic soap event, the murder mystery.
A massive one. Lisa herself was a prime suspect before the killer was revealed to be the mother of a woman Michael had wronged years before.
Okay, so after the emotional turmoil of Michael Shea, she married attorney Grant Coleman. That was 1975-1979.
And this one brought more high drama, featuring the iconic soap opera trope of the crashed wedding. Grant's ex-wife burst in during the ceremony.
Can't have a crash wedding.
It's practically mandatory. She announced Grant had a previously unknown son. And that ex-wife, Joyce, turned out to be a schemer in her own right, later faking a terminal illness to try and separate Grant and Lisa. Soap writers always ensured Lisa's happiness was, well, hard-won, if not impossible.
Husband number 5, 1982. Wealthy businessman Whit McCall.
Right. This marriage ended tragically in 1984 when Whit was murdered. But critically, Lisa formed a profound bond with his stepsons, Brian and Kirk McCall. She acted as a crucial mother figure to them. This really demonstrated her capacity for nurturing, moving her beyond just the pure vixen role.
Showing some evolution there. Then Earl Mitchell.
Husband number 6, Earl Mitchell, 1986-1987. He was introduced as this mysterious Interpol agent. His suspicious, frequent disappearances were central to their plot. He was eventually revealed to have been killed while investigating the legendary Oakdale villain James Stenbeck.
Always connected to the bigger Oakdale plots. Okay, jumping ahead to the mid-90s, Eduardo Grimaldi. This is where she gets her final famous surname.
Exactly. Eduardo Grimaldi, 1994-1995. He was a Maltese gangster, which thrust Lisa into this world of international intrigue. Very glamorous, very dangerous.
But like many of her unions, it was fleeting, wasn't it?
Extremely fleeting. It lasted only a few weeks before Eduardo was shot. And then, to make it even more dramatic, he was killed in the hospital by his own cousin, Orlina, who infiltrated the place to finish the job.
Good grief.
And this particular murder led to a dramatic court case where Lisa mistakenly sued Dr. John Dixon, believing his incompetence had led to Eduardo's death, just adding yet another layer of public drama to her life.
Okay, one more. Husband number 8, Martin Shedwin in 1996.
This was another forced marriage. He was a criminal who essentially blackmailed her into marrying him as part of a complex scheme to smuggle high-value assets out of Hong Kong before the 1999 handover to China.
Wow, tying her personal life directly to major geopolitical events.
It's a life defined by high drama, high stakes, and constant reinvention. But beyond the marital chaos, we really need to spend some serious time analyzing one of her most complex and controversial storylines from 1992. This served as genuine social commentary.
Okay, what was that?
This was the storyline involving the interracial marriage of her friends, Jessica Griffin, who was black, and Duncan McKechnie, who was white. Lisa, by this point, was evolving into an Oakdale matriarch, a central figure in the community.
And she objected to the marriage.
She initially voiced strong public objections to their union. The writers were careful here, layering her rationale to show the complexities of prejudice. At first, she cited fear, the racism, and societal difficulties she believed the couple and their future children would inevitably face.
So it's sort of protective stance initially.
Kind of. But the narrative escalated. She eventually hardened her public stance, moving from that protective fear to outright moral objection, asserting that interracial marriage was, quote, morally wrong.
Wow. That's a significant and shocking position for a character who had, by then, been portrayed as increasingly sophisticated and world-weary.
It was a very charged, challenging storyline. It forced the show to confront issues of prejudice head-on. And because Lisa had such a long history, her objections carried immense weight within the fictional community of Oakdale, and presumably with the audience. The writers definitely risked alienating a segment of the viewers by having this beloved veteran character take such a stance.
So how did they resolve it?
The resolution was equally significant, emphasizing the show's capacity for growth and education, even for its most established characters.
Oh.
Lisa ultimately changed her mind through compassion and education provided directly by Duncan and Jessica.
Okay.
She issued a public apology, acknowledging the pain and negative impact her public stance had caused. She didn't just withdraw her objections, she fully embraced the couple, supporting their marriage and accepting the role of godmother to their child, Bonnie.
That's a really important arc.
It was essential in transitioning Lisa from the pure scheming bitch of the 1960s to a flawed but ultimately redeemable Oakdale elder. It showed that even the super vixen could evolve on matters of deep social importance.
And as she evolved, she certainly cemented her financial independence too, right? Her business ventures became a source of stability, contrasting sharply with her chaotic romantic life.
Absolutely. Her lasting legacy includes becoming the sole owner of the high-end boutique fashions, establishing the restaurant The Mona Lisa, great name, and eventually co-owning a major local hub, the Lakeview Hotel, with Lily Snyder.
So by the end of her run, Lisa Grimaldi was a self-made businesswoman, a powerful woman in her own right.
Exactly. Proving she didn't need a wealthy husband to survive or thrive. That evolution from a maid-hiring schemer trying to escape domesticity to a business magnate is a fascinating trajectory over 50 years.
We've covered the dramatic life of Lisa, which is epic in itself, but now we have to turn our focus to the truly demanding physical career Eileen Fulton maintained outside of Oakdale. Her astounding commitment to live theater, often simultaneously with her daytime role.
It is genuinely astounding. The physical and logistical demands of her dual career, especially in the mid-1960s and 70s, are almost impossible to imagine today, particularly because As the World Turns was still being broadcast live back then.
Right, live TV, and she wasn't just doing, regional theater on the side, she was starring on Broadway.
She famously replaced Melinda Dillon as the character Honey in the original highly acclaimed Broadway run of Edward Albee's very dense and emotionally draining play, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Okay, let's break down the logistics of her typical workday during that period, because it sounds insane.
It really does. She had to be at the CBS studios for the live broadcast of As the World Turns, which wrapped up at 2:00 p.m. Eastern Time.
Okay, show ends.
Immediately after signing off live television, she had to execute a high-speed dash from the CBS studios to the Billy Rose Theater, where Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf was running its matinee performance.
How much time did she have?
She only had a 30-minute window to make that entire trek across town, change into her costume, and prepare mentally and physically for the stage.
30 minutes, that's it.
That's it. The only thing that made this superhuman schedule even remotely feasible was the structure of Albee's play itself. Her character, Honey, luckily didn't appear on stage until the first 20 minutes or so of the show had already passed.
So she was literally arriving, changing clothes, taking maybe a quick breath, and rushing straight onto a Broadway stage day after day.
Pretty much. It was a constant theatrical marathon. Imagine pivoting instantly between the melodramatic, rapid-fire style of live soap opera dialogue and the highly intellectual, intense, emotionally raw demands of Albee's serious drama.
And that wasn't even all of it, right?
No. If that weren't enough, the source material notes that on top of the live daytime soap and the Broadway matinee, she was often back on stage in the evenings, performing in the Fantastics off-Broadway.
3 shows at the same time.
3 active, major productions running concurrently. Live TV, Broadway matinee, off-Broadway evening show.
The amount of memorization, the vocal strain, the sheer physical exhaustion required to switch between those 3 very different roles daily, it's intense.
It speaks volumes about her dedication to performance and her incredible work ethic. It far surpasses what most people would consider a demanding acting schedule, even today.
And beyond this intense theatrical juggle, she maintained a successful career as a cabaret performer, using that music major background, right?
Exactly. She routinely performed her cabaret act in New York at venues like the West Bank Cafe, and she took the show on the road to Los Angeles, performing at the Cinegrill.
And her signature song.
Her spotlight song was often As If We Never Said Goodbye from Andrew Lloyd Webber's Sunset Boulevard. And what makes this so wonderfully meta, so perfect for her, is that she performed it against a slideshow tribute dedicated to her iconic years. On The World Turns, she was literally celebrating her own past while performing her current passion. Brilliant.
That is brilliant. The other side of her remarkable dual career involved a significant output as an author and novelist. She didn't just star in drama, she wrote it.
She co-authored 2 autobiographies that gave insight into the life of the woman behind Lisa. How My World Turns came out in 1970, giving a glimpse into the frenzy of her early fame.
Okay.
And then, As My World Still Turns in 1995, published to celebrate her 35th anniversary with the show.
She also used her soap experience to write fiction, didn't she?
She did. She authored a novel simply titled Soap Opera, which was apparently loosely based on her experiences within the genre, sort of fictionalizing her world.
But the real literary surprise, for me anyway, is her output of murder mystery novels.
Right. She authored a whole series of 6 of these, published around 1988. Titles like Take One for Murder, Death of a Golden Girl, and Dying for Stardom.
So she was literally writing murder mysteries featuring glamorous, scheming characters while simultaneously playing the ultimate glamorous, scheming character on screen.
Pretty much living and writing the genre. Her personal life, unfortunately, sometimes mirrored the drama she mastered professionally. She went through 3 marriages and 3 divorces.
Her first marriage was to Bill Cochran. Her second husband was record producer Danny Fortunato, whom she married in 1970.
And that second divorce in 1980 was notably fraught and difficult. Fulton revealed how severe the situation was when she admitted that after the breakup, she felt compelled to wear disguises when she went to work because she was genuinely afraid of him.
That must have added another layer of real-life tension to an already demanding professional existence.
Absolutely. And her third marriage, to landscape architect Rick McMorrow, was incredibly fleeting. It lasted just 3 months after their 1989 wedding. She later remarked that the marriage was essentially over the day after they said their vows.
Oh, wow. So a lot of turmoil there.
Yeah. But despite the turbulence in her private life, her professional excellence was consistently recognized throughout the industry. She received a Daytime Emmy nomination in 1988, earned the prestigious Editors Award at the Soap Opera Digest Awards in 1991, and was inducted into the Soap Opera Hall of Fame in 1998.
And the crowning professional honor arrived in 2004, right?
Yes, when she received a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Daytime Emmys. And significantly, she shared that recognition with her foundational co-stars, Helen Wagner and Dawn Hastings. That moment truly solidified the importance of that original Oakdale core.
As the world entered its final years, the landscape of daytime television was changing rapidly and, well, not necessarily for the better from the perspective of veteran actors.
No, definitely not. And Eileen Fulton was one of the most vocal critics of these changes.
What was she saying?
In the show's final years, particularly around 2008, she publicly criticized the producers and CBS. She argued that airtime for veteran, established characters like Lisa, Nancy, and Bob was being dramatically diminished. Everything was focused solely on relentless storylines for the younger cast members.
She felt the history was being ignored.
Precisely. She pointed out the data. In 2008, she was appearing only 3 to 4 times per month. This reduction in visibility for the characters who literally built the show was a major point of frustration for her, and likely for many long-term fans.
Did she offer any solutions or comparisons?
She did. She even used international comparisons to make her point, noting that British soaps, like EastEnders, had no problem featuring older veteran actors in central, dramatic, and often even romantic storylines. Her criticism really highlighted a major shift in the American daytime model, where youth was increasingly prioritized over legacy.
But even with diminishing airtime, the show always pulled out the stops for her major milestones, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely. She celebrated her 40th anniversary in 2000 with a special tribute episode, and her 50th anniversary in May 2010 was a massive event within the show.
What did they do for the 50th?
That 50th anniversary episode was incredibly moving from what I've read. It featured younger cast members reenacting classic, pivotal scenes involving Lisa and her longtime foil and the show's moral center, Nancy Hughes.
Oh, that's a lovely tribute.
Yeah, it was a beautiful way to connect the past half-century of storytelling to the current generation of actors on the show, a real acknowledgement of her legacy.
But the inevitable conclusion arrived soon after that celebration. Due to declining viewership and shifting network priorities, ATWT was canceled by CBS in December 2009.
Right. The final scenes were taped in June 2010, and the last episode aired on September 17, 2010, the end of an era.
And Lisa Grimaldi, the Grand Dame, she was central to those final moments, wasn't she?
She was. In her last appearances, she was shown reconciling with 2 of her most significant, complex rivals and occasional romantic partners, John Dixon and Lucinda Walsh.
Bringing those long-running relationships to a close.
It felt like a necessary moment of peace for the character, allowing the ultimate schemer to make peace with the town's other powerful figures before the curtain finally closed.
But the show's very final scene didn't focus on Lisa, did it?
No. It focused on the enduring moral center of Oakdale, Dr. Bob Hughes, played by Dawn Hastings, as he retired from Oakdale Memorial Hospital.
How did that play out?
The visual was just perfect. Bob is seen packing up his office, a symbol of the show itself, concluding its incredible run. His wife, Kim, encourages him to take his time saying goodbye. Bob looks around his empty office, places his nameplate into his briefcase,
Yeah, Ned.
and speaks the show's final word. quietly, impactfully.
Which was?
Good night.
Wow. Good night.
That phrase served as such a profound bookend to the show's entire history, perfectly mirroring Helen Wagner's original first line from way back in 1956. Good morning, dear. Yeah. The camera then zoomed in on the globe spinning on Bob's desk, a final poignant visual reference to the show's title. As the world turns before the final fade to black.
What a monumental, defining run for a show and for an actress. And even years after the cancellation, Lisa Grimaldi's legacy is absolutely firm. She's ranked 16th on Soaps. She knows a list of the 40 most iconic characters of all time. Her status as a pioneer of the glamorous, manipulative anti-heroine remains completely untouchable.
Her character embodied that decades-long love-hate relationship viewers had with the Wicked Witch of Oakdale, as some called her. And that unique position, being the villain the audience needed to hate in order to keep watching, is the enduring tribute to Eileen Fulton's original, brilliant decision to play her as a schemer from day one.
So when we boil it all down, what does this all mean for you, the listener? What are the big takeaways when we synthesize the incredible legacy of Eileen Fulton?
Well, I think the major takeaway is centered on professional agency, especially in a highly controlled environment like daytime TV back then. Eileen Fulton took a character that was intended to be disposable, this fleeting, nice girl, and through a brilliant, subtle performance choice, that scheming tone, she convinced the most powerful writer in daytime, Erna Phillips, to build her up as the show's foundational bitch. She essentially pioneered the glamorous anti-heroine on daytime television by asserting her creative will.
And her professionalism was just unparalleled, wasn't it? Especially considering the constraints of the time. We've talked about the insane logistical nightmare of balancing that high-pressure live daytime broadcast with starring in Broadway matinees of a critically demanding play like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and then doing the Fantastics in the evenings.
Yeah, it speaks to a dedication and resilience that few actors could ever maintain, especially given the absolute lack of room for error in live performance back then.
And we cannot overstate the brilliance, really, of the Granny Clause.
No, we can't. This wasn't merely about personal vanity, though some fans perceived it that way. It was a clever, proactive, tactical, contractual maneuver. She foresaw the career trap of aging out of relevance in a youth-obsessed medium.
Right.
By ensuring her character maintained her sexual vitality and glamour, literally by contract. She effectively secured her job security and central plot relevance for decades. She forced the writers to keep her in the game, to keep writing compelling stories for Lisa.
Her story demonstrates so vividly how one performer's bold, sometimes risky choices, like refusing a scene depicting spousal abuse or delivering those early lines with that knowing wink, can genuinely redefine a character. It can influence decades of subsequent television narrative across the entire genre, and even have these bizarre, measurable impacts on popular culture, like we saw with the explosion of the baby named Lisa in the 60s.
She left such an indelible mark on how the American audience views the powerful, manipulative, yet ultimately compelling woman on screen.
Oh.
She taught the audience, maybe, that the characters they loved to hate were often the most fascinating ones to watch.
And that leads us perfectly to our final provocative thought for you to chew on. Lisa Grimaldi survived 8 marriages, assassination attempts, blackmail, countless business ventures in Oakdale. She managed to sustain this intense, volatile, decades-long love-hate relationship with the American public, even influencing something as fundamental as baby names. So, given that sustained cultural impact, how much of America's enduring fascination with the sophisticated bad girl, or the female anti-heroine archetype in pop culture, a trope that still dominates modern primetime and streaming today, how much of that was permanently shaped by the sheer, lasting cultural weight of Eileen Fulton's Lisa Grimaldi?